Discovery is no longer my home. Right now, I'm unemployed. Finally, after much speculation, Richard Rawlings is not guilty. A dark secret that the Fast and Loud star has been hiding has finally come out, and it explains everything. It explains why his marriages abruptly ended, why he sold all of his cars, and why Discovery truly killed his show. Now that he's 55 years old, he's prepared to reveal the truth regarding that $6 million 0 cents court case. You won't believe how bad it is. No one anticipated that. He came into this world on March 30th in a working class neighborhood of Fort Worth, Texas. Even before he became a TV star and major player in the car industry, he had a deep passion for automobiles. One of the earliest photos of him shows him riding a pedal-powered Volkswagen Beetle, beaming with pride as a little boy. It foreshadowed more than just a toy. Richard did not follow the crowd on Saturday mornings when his peers watched cartoons. He and his dad would go newspaper delivering at 3 in the morning, when most city dwellers were still fast asleep. They would pile stacks of papers onto porches as they drove through shadowy neighborhoods. After school, Richard repeated the process for the afternoon session. On weekends, he would collect money by pedaling his bike from one house to another. During those rounds, the cars were more noticeable than the money. All of them began to capture his attention. For every home, he could name the year, brand, and model of the car. His extensive knowledge surprised some of his clients. "I pass by your house twice a day on average. How could I not know what's in your driveway?" was his go-to response every time. No matter how many jobs his dad had, he always made sure he had a vehicle or motorcycle for himself. The lessons stayed with him, and he only got that one toy as a reward. What Richard saw taught him was that success came at a cost. When Richard was 14 years old, he received his very first car. The Green Comet was a 1974 sighting. The money he had saved over the years of delivering newspapers was utilized to cover the cost. Richard was already behind the wheel when he turned 16, while most kids were waiting for the big day. Even though it was against the rules, he persisted anyhow. The Comet wasn't merely a ride, it conveyed a message. To demonstrate its capabilities, he would perform donuts on the tires in the school parking lot. The fact that it's a hideous shade of green doesn't stop his friends from raving about it. The most amazing vehicle ever built, in his opinion. Things proceeded at a rapid pace thereafter. He had already purchased his third car during that 1987 academic year. It was a 1977 black Bandit Trans Am this time. At Eastern Hills High School, he was dubbed the Car Guy due to the fact that it resembled a scene from Smokey and the Bandit, but that wasn't for show. Additionally, he was involved in the auto repair and resale industry, sometimes known as flipping. Prior to his graduation, he had already completed 20 separate car flips. Even though he didn't guess, he still managed to earn more than the average teen working part-time. He had a knack for finding bargains, improving them slightly, and convincing others to pay more than he did. After that, everything else was constructed upon it. Something far worse happened to Rawlings in the early 1990s, when he was just 22 years old. A 1965 Ford Mustang 2+2 Fastback, the type of body style that many car owners fantasize about, was the muscle car he was piloting. In a dark Fort Worth night, he was driving through a rough area near Oakland Boulevard when someone stole his car. It was their intention to remove him from the driver's seat. Richard put up a fight. A gunshot wound ran down his left arm from his shoulder during the altercation. He succeeded. He could have permanently severed ties with car culture, but instead, it served to motivate him even more. Back then, there weren't any tattoos, fame, or a garage. Richard went through 3 distinct wardrobe changes between 1988 and 1990. He was a nurse, firefighter, and police officer before he turned 21. "I want you to get a good job with benefits, stay loyal, and retire with a gold watch," his dad would forever tell him. Richard paid attention initially. In 1988, He introduced Miller Lite to a local bar, and that was the turning point. When he was drunk, an old friend of his asked him what he wanted to do with his life. Richard mentioned his interest in joining the police force, but he expressed financial concerns about attending police academy. Richard was accepted into the North Texas Police Academy in 17 days after the man looked at him and said, "Damn it, I'm the mayor of that city." He worked as a firefighter in Capel after serving as an officer in Alvarado. Despite his many strengths, he remained composed in the face of adversity. In the future, when faced with a business crisis, he would draw on those abilities. When he was 25, though, he realized he needed a change. After liquidating his possessions, he purchased a Jeep. In search of a fresh start, he departed for California. Back then, he lacked body art like tattoos and piercings. After 6 months, he returned to Texas without a Jeep, tattoos, or pierced ears. He was sound asleep on his sister's couch when the bank reclaimed it. He emerged from that abyss stronger than before. In 1999, he decided it was time to strike out on his own and established Lincoln Press. It was a printing and advertising firm based in Dallas. While his knowledge of branding was extensive, his knowledge of printing was limited. To launch his company, he secured a $100,000 0-cent small business loan. Lincoln Press was booming in just 5 years. He presented the client with a Lamborghini Gallardo in 2004, the year the business achieved its first $1 million sale. It was effective. Over time, the company's size increased. By the end, he had sold it. With the proceeds from that sale, he could finally indulge in his true passion, purchasing cars. When Richard Rawlings launched Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas in 2002, business was slow. A modest shop it was. He used the proceeds from the sale of Lincoln Press to build it, and it lacked basic amenities like running water and air conditioning. An unfortunate beginning was made. Not Rawlings' means, but his desire was lacking. He and his small crew continued to travel the nation, participating in parades, trade shows, and car shows because he was still passionate about what he was doing. Gas Monkey was a name they were willing to do anything to promote. They embarked on the Cannonball Run, a legendary automobile race, in May 2007 with his companion Dennis Collins. In 1979, a time of 32 hours and 51 minutes was recorded as the previous record. That is the total amount of time required to travel coast to coast from New York City to Los Angeles. Nearly 3 decades had passed since the record's last spin. May 2007 was the month that Rawlings and Collins decided to test it out. The Bull Run drive from Key West to Montreal deviated from its intended course. Rather than that, they immediately sought out the record. They took the wheel of a Ferrari 550 Maranello that had undergone modifications and received additional fuel tanks to reduce the frequency of stops. They arrived at the Portoino Inn in Rondo Beach from Manhattan in just 31 hours and 59 minutes. As the sun set, they slipped away. I finished it after 28 years. The previous record stood at 87, which they surpassed. 6. On a road that extends to 811 miles. Some individuals didn't believe it at first. Despite numerous skeptics and comparisons to the first runs, the achievement stood out. It was daring, it was dangerous, and it was authentic enough for Jay Leno to personally nod to Rawlings. Unbeknownst to most, that moment held greater significance for him. There is no such thing as a car guy like Jay Leno. There are an overwhelming number of vintage and rare automobiles in his garage. Everyone in the industry looks up to him because of his extensive knowledge of automobiles. After Rawlings broke the Cannonball Run record, Leno did more than simply congratulate him. It was an emphatic endorsement. Even though Rawlings didn't become famous until after Fast and Loud, the nod from Leno earned him immense respect in the automotive industry. For Rawlings, that trust was crucial. Launching Gas Monkey was no picnic from 2002 to 2012, so he invested every dime of his savings into the company. He did his job out of a rundown garage without electricity, running water, or even enough tools to get by. He struggled to secure competent labor and appropriate components. Just to keep the lights on, he would sometimes have to fight. Every project had its own unique set of risks. With each client, you had to win them over. Rawlings started discussing his show plan around that time. More than just car enthusiasts, he aimed to make auto repair accessible to everyone. He aimed for a broad audience that included families, children, and anybody who enjoyed an exciting tale. However, networks were unconcerned. It appeared that the proposal was either overly detailed or too precarious. As he patiently awaited an opportunity, he continued to promote the brand by attending additional car shows, speeches, and in-person dates. Although progress was slow, something was accomplished. Gas Monkey had already gained some notoriety in the automotive industry by the time Discovery finally agreed in 2012. When Fast and Loud premiered on June 6, 2012, no one could have predicted that it would catapult a Dallas garage to global fame. Everything revolved around Richard Rawlings. Before the camera started rolling, he was just your average guy running Gas Monkey Garage. More than 200 countries recognized him when the show became popular. Its fame extended far beyond the United States. There were 13 different language versions of the show. Rawlings became a household name in the entertainment industry due to his extensive reach. The plan was straightforward but effective. Rawlings and his crew sought out forgotten classic cars. Many of them were injured or had difficulty moving around. Restoring the cars to their former glory was an expensive ordeal. What really set the show apart, though, was its tone. Fast and Loud was more of an all-around show than some of its more dramatic or niche counterparts. According to Rawlings, it was an activity that the whole family could enjoy. He could have avoided making yet another car show. He hoped it would be entertaining and engaging for everyone who watched it. All went according to plan. The excitement, the builds, and the cars had people hooked. When Rawlings expanded his career beyond television, though, things began to turn around for him. His ventures under the Gas Monkey brand included eateries, apparel, energy drinks, vodka, tequila, and more. Even though the garage was still there, it served as the foundation for something considerably larger. Rawlings had amassed a massive business empire by the year 2020. After 16 seasons and 155 episodes, the show concluded on June 8, 2020, but the brand remained stronger than before. He was all about improving buying and selling, which is what Rawlings referred to as his cash money formula. That's why the show was successful. Seeking out dilapidated automobiles in poor condition, he would traverse the nation. Subsequently, he would expedite matters by using forceful negotiation and rapid funding. When he wanted a seller to agree immediately, he would sometimes bring a large sum of money with him. He famously said, "You can always buy a $10,000 0 cents car for $5 0 cents. It wasn't just a good TV show, it was his actual strategy, and it worked. The system's effectiveness was best demonstrated by a Dodge Challenger build. It cost him slightly over $40 0 cents. Repairs, upgrades, and additions to the building cost the business $77 0 cents. $150,000 was the price tag for the vehicle. It only took one flip to generate $73,000 0 cents in profit. Plus, they were astute spenders who understood their customers' wants and needs, so it wasn't all luck. Rawlings' willingness to take risks was another distinctive feature of Fast and Loud. Automobiles that were rusty, had frame damage, or appeared to have been parked for decades were common purchases for him. Rawlings saw potential where others saw only problems, even among his own teammates. At one point, he spent $400 0 cents on a massive vehicle, the prior owner broke it, which caused it to have serious technical issues. However, Gas Monkey Garage resolved the issue. After getting it fixed up, the car was sold for a pretty penny. Dangerous wagers like that eventually became ingrained in the show's character. The show's drama and depth were enhanced by these old rusted cars. They weren't there merely for show. There were tales to be told and problems to be resolved in every one of the restored automobiles. The amount of effort, time, and resources that went into the changes was plain to see. Some builds took longer than expected, while others didn't go at all. It was entertaining that some vehicles were financially unsound. People saw the business side of auto restoration for what it is, a lucrative endeavor fraught with risk. Fast and Loud quickly rose to prominence, eventually becoming one of Discovery Channel's most watched reality programs. It ran for 8 years, from 2012 to 2020, showcasing construction, home renovation, and wild road trips. Season 4 saw the show's popularity skyrocket. The pressure was already high that season due to the tight schedules, unexpected problems, and last-minute fixes that were required. Viewers were left in the dark about the team's progress on the car and the likelihood of the deal falling through. Everyone was captivated by the combination of challenge and reward. However, in 2020, Rawlings made a decisive decision. He announced his departure from the Joe Rogan Experience and his departure from Discovery. Possessing power was the driving factor. He despised the idea of being constrained in his future endeavors by responsibilities that stifled his imagination. Leaving the network was a gamble, but it opened doors to new possibilities. Since then, he has maintained his brand's growth through new media projects, YouTube, and Gas Monkey Garage. Richard Rawlings decided in 2013 to broaden his brand's appeal beyond automobiles and engines, despite his already considerable fame in the auto industry. He established the original Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in North Dallas that September. What was once the Firewater Bar and Grill was demolished and replaced with it. Approximately 19,000 square feet was allocated to it. It had all the makings of a chic restaurant, bar, and music venue. He made sure that the 100-person capacity venue was run by seasoned professionals. As the company's general manager, Alex Mendanza, was recruited after leading the Las Vegas House of Blues. In order to implement these changes, David Hollister was recruited to oversee the kitchen. As soon as the club opened, there was an eerie silence. 2 days prior to its public opening, the American rock band Old 97S performed the venue's inaugural live performance. There was life and style there from the beginning. By March 2014, the business was prepared to expand. Building a second Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in DFW Airport's Terminal D was the correct move on his part. Gas Monkey now had a location where passengers at one of the largest airports in the nation could enjoy their food, tunes, and brand. The idea of a third location outside of the DFW area was even mentioned by him. He wasn't idling, he was actually creating something. Beyond its menu, the bar and grill offered more. Music, cars, and nightlife converged at this spot, turning it into a party spot. Rawlings took things to the next level in October of that year. Not far from the original watering hole, he set up Gas Monkey Live. 3,000 people could easily fit into its enormous 38,000 square feet.